Hey guys, John again over at Powerhouse. Got another one of our 2387s up on the stand, finished up. This one is for John Beswick, and he's out of Canada, and this will be going into a 70 VW. This is our 200 horsepower, 200 torque combo. Makes right about there, depending on whose dyno you're putting it on, to the engine, to the crank, and to the wheels it puts out about 160 to 165 to the rear wheels. Of course, on a chassis dyno, you're going to lose about 15 to 20% depending on the drivetrain. But this combo is working really well for us. We've done it over and over. As far as the engine combo itself goes, we're running 86 millimeter MP crank and the H-beam 5.5 MP rods with the ARP 2000 bolts. Somebody asked us about the cranks. We run the MP crank, we run Cooltech, we run Scat, the CB. They're all pretty much the same. These are new aftermarket cranks. Definitely, they hold the power. We put them to our turbo cars, made 400 horsepower, never broke a crank like this. You really only have a couple options. You have the Chinese cranks, which everybody's pretty much the same, which is in here, or you can run a billet crank. Scat makes a nice billet crank, but you're looking at a couple $1,000s for a billet crank, and I've never broken one of the forged cranks in any of our stroker motors, nor none of our turbo stuff. So, you know, this works fine for us. Same thing with the H-beams. As long as you're running the ARP bolts, I don't see any problems with that. We've never had a broken crank. So this one has the 130 angle cam with the 125 rockers, and we run either the FK8 with 1.4s or the 130 with the 125s. So they're pretty much similar lift. I think the FK8 has 534 lift, and this one has 524 or 528, somewhere in that range. This has a little bit more duration, so it's kind of a little bit bigger in cam, but with the stroker motor being a 2387, it has no problem pulling the torque. So the cam actually works really well in here, and I get a little bit of a quieter valve train with the 130 cam and the 125s. Of course, we have to set up the rocker geometry properly, and depending on whose rockers we use, we cut the blocks down on the heads to get the geometry right on some rockers. So we set the side play up, the rocker geometry, get that right. But even doing that, we noticed that the 130 cam seems to be a little bit quieter on the valve train. Very nice setup, and it's proven itself to work well for us. So we'll do that. We run the straight cut gears, Scat Lubalobe lifters, ran them for years, no problems. AA pistons and cylinders. And this one has the L7 MP CNC ported cylinder heads with 4437 valves. So it's got about 8.5 to 1 compression. We run pump gas 91 on it, minimum 91. I don't like to run higher than 8.5 on a pump gas motor. Compression, these air-cooled motors, you want to run more octane, and with the best they have available around here is 91. You want to stick to about 8.5 to 1. Everybody has their own ideas on that, but we don't melt pistons. We don't have overheating problems. We keep our compression rather low on our drivable motors, you know, unless you're going to run race gas. So that works out good. We've got the Bernie Bergman Porsche shroud. This one actually has everything's been polished on it. The exhaust system is from Tiger at A1. It's a 1 3/4 stainless Sidewinder, and he sent that to us polished, and you can tell we just fired it up, so it's got that beautiful gold color to it after the heat got to it, and man, it looks great. And then the carburetors have been pulled completely apart, sent out and polished. The fan, the housing, the stand, and the pulley, all that's been polished. We've got the MST billet valve covers. They come already machine polished. And this is the CB Magnus Spark distributor, so it has like a billet polish to it. And then we do our custom wires. If you've seen some of our other videos, we do the 90-degree boots down here at the plug, and we put them up obviously here on the cap, and then we tighten up the wires nice and clean, and put a little nutsert in the back of the shroud and a clamp here to hold it down real clean. So this one, we got it dialed in, and now I'm just going to adjust the valves and double check that everything's okay. It should be fine. It sounds really good, especially if we're putting the carburetors completely back together. We had the throttle shafts out, the butterflies, I mean, everything completely apart, went back in, and right after break-in, I bring it down in RPM, and I synchronize the carburetors side to side and then front to back, And front to back is sometimes when you put the butterflies back in these pockets, they get shifted a little bit. So sometimes you have to go back in and adjust that. You have air bleed screws that you can straighten that out with, but you don't really want to turn those air bleed screws too many turns different from one another to compensate for a butterfly that shifted. So when I first did the initial sync on this, I was pretty happy with it. I mean, it was real close. So this one sounds real good. The valves aren't even that loud. So I'm just going to go through, make sure there's nothing wrong there, make sure everything checks out okay, and then we'll put it on some load cycles and then wrap this one up. And he's either going to come pick this one up or we're going to ship it to him. I'm not sure. He hasn't decided yet, but main thing is we're going to finish this up today and get on to the next one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and swing this around on number 1, and then we'll pull the valve cover off and we'll check the number 1 cylinder. So since I can't get to the bottom pulley nut tucked away underneath the breastplate here, we'll go ahead and turn it from the top of the motor, and or excuse me, from the fan, and we'll just hold the belt a little bit. So we'll get a little tension, and we'll put it up on number 1, well, TDC. And TDC comes up twice, once for number 1, once for number 3. So we'll remove the distributor cap and see where it's sitting right now. And it's actually on number 1, so that's good. All right. Now we'll go ahead and move the valve cover and the exhaust out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and take a look and see how it looks inside there. On these A1 exhaust systems, you can just remove the back clamp bolt real easy. They have built-in little teeth on the washer here and the stainless nut, so they never jam up. So basically you just have to crack them loose. You don't have to fumble around with washers or anything. That works good. And then of course you got the V-band, which is an 11mm. And the V-band's nice because you just break it loose and it swings down. So you can swing it down, or you can remove the whole exhaust, get it out of your way. Either way, if it's in the car and you're on the jack stands, it's hard to swing it down because you don't have enough height. If you're on an engine hoist, then you can swing it down. And I need to get the breather out of the way here. So just move the breather hose out of the way. And what I do with my, here we go. And I just need the socket. There it is. Right. So we'll spin those bolts loose. Put a rag down here because the valve cover might have a little bit of oil in it. I'm sure it will. There's a little bit of oil in there. And I always inspect the inside to see if the rockers are hitting. We notch the valve covers for clearance. Sometimes we go back in. We've been pretty good the last few motors of getting these deep enough so they're clear. We've done it so many times now, we get it pretty good. So there's nothing sitting in there. That's something we always go back in and check. And then we check, obviously we'll check the valves, the side play, go over our torque on the nuts that hold the rockers on, and just go over all the bolts, nuts. Also, we'll take a look at the face of the pedestal on the rocker and the valve to see the wear and make sure it's wearing in properly, nothing abnormal. So everything looks good in here. The motor's stone cold right now, and we're gonna adjust them at 0 lash. So I feel a little bit of play in there, so I'm guessing there might be like at 3 thousandths. But I'll go ahead and adjust them to 0 lash, which when I'm on number 1, I'm going to do intake and exhaust. And I'm going to make sure that the push rod can just spin. And there'll be a little side play, but there shouldn't be any forward and back. And I can feel a little bit there. I can see a little. And this one's about the same. So we'll go ahead and tighten those up to 0. And then we'll go ahead and do number 2. We'll do 1, 4, 3, 2, so we can go so we can go clockwise on the rotation of the crank. So right now we're on 1, then we're going to go clockwise a half a turn, do number 4. So 1, 4, clockwise another half a turn, do 3, clockwise again, do number 2, then back to 1. And I like to go around a couple times just to make sure. Sometimes when you're adjusting the valves, you'll actually get the cam to move back and forth just slightly, like a thou or so. So it takes a couple times around to get them really nice. I mean, if you really want them to sound good, and just take your time on that. So we'll go ahead and finish that up and then get the valve covers back on and get it fired back up. All right, so we just finished up going through the valves. I went around a couple times, and only a few adjusters needed a little bit of adjust. Nothing out of the ordinary. Everything looked real good. So we got the valve covers back on, breathers back on, and use a little brake clean on a little fiber rag just to get the aluminum parts and to touch the exhaust system. Make sure no oil get transferred on there. You don't really want to fire it up, especially a polished exhaust with oil on it. It'll kind of stain it a little, so you don't want to do that. With the ones that are just Scotch-Brited and not polished, the raw stainless, you can always take Scotch-Brite and WD-40, clean them right back up. But the polished ones, you got to be a little more delicate with, but they look real beautiful. So, all right, so this thing's ready to go. Let's get it fired back up and see how it sounds. all ready to go. It's all dialed in. Carburetor sync, air cleaner's back on, linkage is set, air fuel is set. The A1 exhaust sounding beautiful as always. This size motor, 2387, running absolutely smooth. John, I know you're going to be happy. I can't wait till you get it installed in the car. Thanks again for choosing us to build your motor. Please keep us updated. Send us pictures, video. We appreciate that. And anybody else looking for an engine, or looking for a quote, or you don't feel like calling, just take a look at our website. Very easy to use. People always ask us, how much is the price? But really, it's just a click away. You can pick options. Options are drop downs. Very, very quick. You can get prices. You can add clutch, exhaust, painted, sheet metal, all kinds of different stuff. Very easy. And then if you want a personal quote, give us a call. If you're not following us on YouTube, please follow us on YouTube if you'd like to see some of our work. Powerhouse VW. Turn on the subscribe button and the notifications tab for upcoming videos. So appreciate everybody for watching. Thank you guys.